Hi everyone, Kelvin here, the Cinephile. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Now before we get started, I would really like it if you hit the subscribe button. That would mean the world to me. So that would be great. Thank you. So during this time, during this pandemic, I have watched a number of films and one has stuck in my mind, and that is Doctor Sleep. So that's the film that we're going to be focusing on today. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure you know the plot line, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But this will be a spoiler review, by the way. The main plot of Doctor Sleep takes place over 30 years after The Shining. So, we see Danny Torrance, his recovery from being an alcoholic, like his father. So these are very deep and profound themes, which I really like. So he meets this young girl named Abra, like Abracadabra, and together they fight the True Knot, which is a quasi-immortal group of psychic vampires. I have to look up what psychic vampires meant, but there you go. So they suck the life force out of people, basically. Uh, so let's go through likes, dislikes, and overall feeling about Doctor Sleep. So, what did I like about the film? And since this is spoilers, anything goes. So, I liked the film for the most part. I really like that it's a quiet, contemplative film, if that makes sense. It's not loud, it's not an action film, that's for certain. So, it's very slow, it sort of apes the style of The Shining a little bit, but, and that's a negative, so I'll speak about that afterwards, but it sort of is in the same style as The Shining, long shots, slow moving, it's deliberate. I wouldn't call it slow though, because the director, Mike Flanagan, he directed The Haunting of Hill House, which is fantastic if you haven't seen that one. So it's deliberate pacing. So it really depends if you like that sort of thing. The acting was good for the most part from the main cast. I think the little girl, I forget her name right now, but I think the little girl needs a little bit more experience. She was probably 12 or 13 when she shot this, so obviously pretty young. But she has this under her belt and the next thing and the next piece of work, so she'll get better with time. But she has potential, so that's a good thing. Ewan was very good. Ewan McGregor, he plays Danny. He was very good, very solid, if not spectacular. It's a very subtle performance, I would say. It's not very, he's breaking down and crying or like like breaking things for no reason. So it's not that. It's not. It's almost the opposite of Jack Nicholson's performance. So it's very interesting because he's very haunted. Dan Torrance. He's very haunted and very regretful and very sad at where his life is. He's an alcoholic, and I'm not an alcoholic, but I've dealt with other things that are not pleasant, and you sort of get obsessed with things. So yeah, I really like the story. But the acting's good. Rebecca Ferguson plays Rose the Hat, and she's fantastic. She's probably one of the better actresses working today in all of the world. She's British, but she's been in Hollywood for, I want to say 5 or 6 years at least. So she's doing a great job. From The Greatest Showman to Doctor Sleep to Mission Impossible, she has great range. So she's a really good actress, and she is probably one of the better villains that we've seen in the past 5 to 10 years. You know where she's coming from, so it's a very good performance. Okay, so I like that they didn't do any de-aging for the original characters from The Shining, from the previous film. But there's one performance that bothered me a bit, and we'll get to that in the negatives. But I do like that idea that you don't just de-age. Like, let's get Jack Nicholson. Let's get, really, The Shining is 4 characters, really. But let's get lookalikes, like exact lookalikes, and where it's sort of frightening. I think you really it's just the character. You have to get the spirit of the character. And I think I don't know the lady's name, but the actress playing Danny's mother is good. She has a very small part in this film, but she does a good job. And yes, and I think I'm looking down at my notes. It's not written here, but I really like the job they did because they have to adapt Stephen King's book, Doctor Sleep, which is a sequel to his book, The Shining. The film The Shining is, I don't even know if it's 50% the same. I've never read The Shining. But Stephen King famously or infamously despises the film that Stanley Kubrick made. Now, I watched The Shining last year, so yeah, last summer, and it's great. I mean, I'm not a huge Kubrick film fan, or I don't worship at his altar, but it's good. It's very good. It's well done. It holds up. I mean, the film it was made in 1980, so it's 40 years old. This year it's 40 years old, and it holds up. And this story, Doctor Sleep, just came out last year, so I like that the story takes place 39 years after The Shining. I think that's really cool. Just like Mary Poppins Returns, I really like the story of how it's like a sequel and not just a reboot. Because if you can make a cool sequel to something that makes sense, then that's much better than just rebooting it, right? I mean, you can never imagine rebooting The Shining. Nobody's going to do that. In our lifetimes, maybe in 100 years, people will be like, who cares? Just redo it. But there was Shining the film, and so they had to honor Stephen King's work, Doctor Sleep the book, obviously, which is an adaptation, but they had to change a few details because the film, and these are spoilers for The Shining, for Doctor Sleep. If you haven't seen it by now, I apologize. But, Shining killed off a character, for instance, and, he's alive in the book for Doctor Sleep. But he's he's a ghost, he's a spirit in Doctor Sleep because, that way you can still have conversations. Does that make sense? So you're sort of making concessions because the film exists, and the film is so famous and it's so well known and thought of in cinephile circles and movie lover circles, right? So I think they threaded the needle, and it was a very difficult thing to do. So they honor Stephen King's Doctor Sleep, but also Stephen King's The Shining book, because the ending of his book, The Shining, is in Doctor Sleep. A different version of that ending is in this film, which is really interesting. And then they also honor Kubrick's The Shining, which is a very different story than what King wanted originally. So I think they thread the needle really well. I really like it in that way, and that's why I think it's stuck with me a little bit. I watched Doctor Sleep actually more than over a week ago, so I'm just doing this review now. I thought maybe I won't do one, but here we are. So, negatives. I'm also trying to keep these less than half an hour, these reviews. Okay, negatives. So, number one, the actor who played a version of Lloyd looked nothing like Jack Nicholson, who has a very recognizable face, obviously, a very famous actor, and he isn't that good of an actor, so that's a double fault. I think that's might be a little bit of directing there. I mean, the directing choice, but I also think the actor isn't even 75% of what Jack Nicholson is, right? And I'm being nice, by the way. It's like Jack Nicholson is like LeBron James or Michael Jordan, right? He's such a good actor, and I think when you find an actor that's sort of half of that, or even 75% of that, it sort of shows a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have. I know he's in the book as well as a spirit, but maybe cut him out or not do that, because I mean, I like that they didn't de-age Jack Nicholson because it would have looked bizarre and, you know, sort of stretched out, or I don't know, CGI or whatever. Um, but yeah, so I'm really mixed on that because I think the actor is just not, it's not Jack Nicholson, right? So it's sort of difficult. Even though the scene is okay, but he looks nothing like him either, right? So it's sort of odd. I don't know. The pacing is both a positive and a negative. Um, you can certainly feel its length. This film is 2.5 hours long. So I can't do math, but that's that's 150 minutes. There you go. I think it's 150 or 151. Someone can tell me in the comments, but it's really, yeah, it's quite long, and you feel it because it's deliberately paced. Like, it's creepy. I'd say this film is creepy, but I'm not a horror film fan. Not really. So it's not, you know, there's no jump scares, not jump out of your seat scary. So if you like that sort of thing, like if you like slasher films, then this wouldn't be your style. It's a very slow, contemplative film. So yeah, it really depends on what you like. So I don't want to go too long here, but I just want to mention another negative for me is I think the scripts. I mean, this film is 2.5 hours long, and there's a director's cut, pardon me, with another, I think 28 minutes longer, like almost half an hour longer. It's just like, whew. Yeah, I haven't watched the director's cut, but anyways. Yes, I think the script a little bit. I think Rose the Hat saying, "Well, hello there," you know, saying that 5 times. I don't think she has to say it 5 times. I think she can say it twice in a film. And I don't know if she says it again in the director's cut, but yeah, she does say it, I think, 4 or 5 times. I mean, those are nitpicks. Yeah, I think everyone's really good. I think maybe, you know, a couple of scenes might be unintentionally funny just because, you know, just because of the way it's done. Like Ewan, you know, sort of aping Jack Nicholson with the axe. You know, it's not really scary. It's more sort of funny because it's sort of an imitation, or the House of Ghosts are trying to force him to kill Abra near the end of the film. But yeah, I think everything makes sense. Like, it's really done well. Like, why they go to the Overlook. They even explain in the film, saying spirits, it's dangerous there for us, but it's dangerous for her too. Instead of just a one-on-one or two-on-one fight. And I think going back to the Overlook, you have to, right? It's a sequel to The Shining. You have to go back, or you have to mention it at least. So yeah, I think the choices are good. I think overall, this is my score. Overall, I would give the film 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think it's good. I think it's very good in places. Like, I really like the story, and his name, Dr. Sleep, he helps, you know, it's very sad, but it's very, very nice of him too. You know, his sort of redemption. He helps give people peace, you know, as they pass on, you know, as they die. So, you know, that really touches me, and, you know, the alcoholism touches me as well. I mean, I've always liked watching characters struggle and sort of redeem themselves or find peace. I think many people, I think most people suffer in the world, and sometimes they suffer silently, and I think this film is really, it's a nice nod to those people. And I know Stephen King suffered from alcoholism as well, earlier in life, not now. So yes, just to finish up, before I go too long here. So, Dr. Sleep is definitely more modern. There's a couple of, little action bits in it that are very modern, very 2019. And I think the audience does need that. I think The Shining works because it's just so... The Shining is sort of relentless in its elemental terror. Like, it's just like boom, 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 right? Without any like action sequences. It's just sort of, gets worse and worse for the characters. But Doctor Sleep is definitely a little bit more modern, less artistic than The Shining. But it's given give and take, because Doctor Sleep is less frightening than The Shining, but it's more emotional. And I would say, if there's one knock on The Shining, and I've heard this from other people too, but for me, like, I'm surprised I actually really enjoyed it, because I'm sort of I like narrative, I like the story, I like emotion, and The Shining is ice cold. Like, that is just, I don't know if it's cynical, I mean, I think that's debatable, it's a story, but I mean, it's ice cold. There's no emotion whatsoever. Like, there's no heart to the film. It's just the story and the terror of The Shining. I know some people love that, but Doctor Sleep is definitely more emotional. There's a little bit more happening in the story. I think it's actually slightly more bizarre. If you like that, if you like your films just to go for it and jump off the bridge or jump off the mountain, the cliff. So it really depends on what you like. So again, Doctor Sleep, I would give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. What did you think about the film? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much. Please comment. Let me know what you want from reviews, from trailer reactions, pardon me. And that would be great. So yes, thank you so much for watching. Bye. Until next time.